everybody, I'm Kate Conroy,
And I'm Vinny Civitello.
and this is Other
Right.
People's Business, which is the podcast from the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, the largest statewide business association in the country. We release a new episode every other Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. Shout out to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group. They do home, auto, and workers' comp, and they are the official sponsor of the show, so check them out if you need some updated coverage.
Just a housekeeping matter, too, before we get this thing rolling. This podcast is available just about anywhere you can get a podcast. That's iTunes, Google Play, Amazon's TuneIn. We even put these things up on YouTube if you'd rather watch than listen. But no matter how you check this show out, show it some love. Give it that like, give it a comment, give it that 5-star review on the iTunes. Helps the algorithms from each respective network find more awesome people who are very much like you. So with all that out of the way, our awesome guest today from Lincoln Technical Institute is Frank Galindo. Frank, say hi, let the audience hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for the introduction. I butted in a little too early before. I kind of caught myself.
That's okay.
Oh,
Here I am, for real, introducing myself.
Welcome.
It's great to have you.
Yes. All right, so today's icebreaker. What are you currently binging? It could be books, movies, TV, food, music. Who wants to go first?
I could go first.
All right, bring it.
I did and forgive me if I get this title wrong because it's super weird, but it's the woman across the street from the girl in the window. I don't. Yeah.
I call it the woman across the street who drinks too much. That's my affectionate.
Yeah, that's probably a better title for. In fact, if they wind up doing more seasons, that's probably a better title to stick with for the rest of the series. But yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what I did. Yeah,
I
Oh,
quit
go
that
ahead.
one.
No.
No, I quit it. So tell me why you liked it. What
Yeah.
made you like it enough to finish it?
Well, first of all, I thought it was a movie. Like when I saw it promoted to me on the Prime, I can't remember if it was Prime or Netflix, whatever it was. Netflix, yeah. I thought it was just like a one and done kind of a 2-hour movie, and I had a couple hours to myself, so I was like, you know what, I'll throw this on. I gotta tell you, there are very, 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 very few things that Kristen Bell has done that I don't like. So this was gonna be like a clear winner. It's in that domestic thriller subgenre.
Yep.
Housewives at home solving mysteries, and it's more of a parody of it than anything else. And I liked it just enough to watch it all the way through. Once I figured out it was, I don't know, not a movie, it was 30-minute episodes. I went through the whole thing. It was fine. I would not want to see a second season made. I think what they did was fine in and of itself. You know, there were some humorous moments. It's very surreal. It's got that a special brand of humor. A lot of times on this show, we talk about stuff and we say, you should all go run out and check it out. This is not that. This is not for everybody. I think, you know, either in the first episode or two, really just the first episode, you're going to see what they're going for, and you're either going to be on board or you're not. And if you're not, don't give it another one. Just stop. So
At least
That's
you're being
really
honest.
good advice. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice because I kept going thinking, I'm just not getting this. I just don't understand what's happening. And then I think I got as deep as episode 4. And after episode 3, I texted you and I was like, what am I watching? Are you watching this? What is this? And you said what you just said.
yeah.
And I gave it one more episode and then I was like, I'm done. I'm out.
That's
I
it.
can't.
You threw in the towel after that.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you seen it, Frank?
No, I binge watch whatever my wife is binge watching. I just kind of tag along. I'm not much of a
Sure.
TV person. I'm a movie person.
Yeah.
But God, we binge watched Switched at Birth up until the end.
I love Switched at Birth.
That is an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny you say oldie but goodie. I never know when these things came out. Like the one with Eugene Levy and his son and
Schitt's Creek.
oh my God,
Schitt's Creek.
Yes,
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek. My wife started watching that. I was like, oh, what is this? And I thought it was new. Apparently it wasn't new. But then the buzz started to happen. We were watching it, and I thought it was funny as heck. I love Catherine O'Hara. She was my favorite
Oh
on
yeah.
the show. The chemistry between her and Eugene Levy's character was amazing. And then, you know, we watched it all the way to the end, and it was neat. And then we're like, oh, look, it's a thing, right? It got awards and everything. So
Mhm.
it definitely earned them because, like I said, I love the show. But yeah, I'll watch whatever she's watching and just kind of keep going. Right now, she's watching a Jenny Rivera docu-series, I think it's called. So yeah, whatever she's watching, I'm there. I hang on. Some I can stand, like Schitt's Creek. got into it, loved it. Twisted Birth, loved it, watched it. Even Parenthood, I think, which used to be on TV. At one point, we binge watched the whole series, right? But the Jenna Rivera one that she's watching now, I just kind of like read something until I fall asleep. That's it.
That's
okay.
a messing around on the phone while the whole thing's going on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Nice.
pretty much it.
Good for you. Good for
How about you?
The Gilded Age on HBO, which the name is totally deceiving because when I saw it, I was like, a documentary about the Gilded Age? This is gonna, I don't know. But no, it's totally written and created, produced by the guy who did Downton Abbey. So it's fun and soapy and, you know, silly and dramatic, like drama queen stuff. So that part's, the writing is fine. I'm just gonna say that. The writing is fine. The clothes are sumptuous. The hats, the houses, it is a feast for the eyes. I'm just gonna say that. It is beautiful to watch. So yeah.
I remember when you were talking about the marvelous Miss Maisel, you were
Yeah.
you were all about the clothes. I remember that, like you were like, people, the clothes are amazing.
The wardrobe is insane. I mean, okay, actually, can we talk about Maisel for a second? Season 4 is coming out, I don't know, next week momentarily.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I
That went
am
under my radar.
so indifferent. The only reason I'm gonna watch is to see the clothes, honestly. But the storylines, the last couple of seasons, I'm so like, ugh,
What is that about?
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead. You described this a lot better than I do.
I don't know. Okay, so it's about this woman who's married to this guy, and they've got 2 kids. They live on like the Upper West Side. The apartment is gorgeous, okay? And the husband, it's set in the 60s, right, Vinny? It's the
Yeah.
60s.
Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
So the husband is trying really hard to be a stand-up comic in his spare time, and she's really supportive. Like she always makes a pot roast, and they bring it to the village. They take a cab all the way from the Upper West Side into the village, and she brings this pot roast in order to bribe the stage guy to get him better time on the stage. And one night he bombs so badly that he sulks the whole way home in the cab, and when they get home, he leaves her. And she is
Wow.
stunned. She is so stunned that she gets raging drunk, gets back into another cab, drives back down to the club, and wanders up on stage and does like a killer set of comedy. And she is suddenly a stand-up comedian, way better than he ever could be. She gets an agent that night, and suddenly she's this, in the 1960s when women like kind of weren't allowed to do some of that stuff.
Right.
So she gets to hang out with like Lenny Bruce.
She gets
and
arrested like that night. Like
she
that's
gets
how
arrested.
crazy
So
her
good she is.
Her
Yeah.
act is on fire that night, I would say.
Yeah.
She gets arrested for public indecency.
Yeah.
Ah, all right. I can see where that's going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or went.
that first season is gold. It's just comedy gold. It's fantastic. But season 2 and season 3 were fine. And I saw the
Did you
trailer.
jump the shark?
It kind
Not,
of.
I wouldn't say it jumped the shark. It's just it has a hard time living up to how good the first season was.
The bar was set too high.
You know, like
Yeah.
the story of how you become this great stand-up comedian is probably a lot more interesting than the story of how you continue to be this great stand-up comedian, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, that was a
anyway,
rabbit hole.
speaking
Sorry.
of gold, tell me about Lincoln Tech.
Lincoln Tech. Well, Lincoln Technical Institute. Lincoln Tech has been around for 75 years as of last year, celebrating 75 years of training. We were founded actually in Newark, New Jersey in 1946, the end of World War II. So as veterans came back from the war, they needed to get retraining, get back into the field, as many do now. But back then, you know, well, what do we do? A trade. So back then it was diesel training and HVAC training. So training World War II veterans to get back into the workforce. And ever since then, we've just expanded our footprint. We're in 22 campuses in 14 states. We do more than diesel and HVAC now. It's automotive, it's CNC, it's medical assistant, practical nursing. So it's career training is what Lincoln Technical Institute is all about. High school students or adults changing careers. We see that whenever there's a recession or with with what just happened with the pandemic, with a lot of folks kind of losing their jobs and going in for retraining. So we're there to help support them, help support the community, help support the professionals who are looking to make a change. You know, people just now, especially, they're like, well, you know what, I've always wanted to be a caregiver. To heck with my office job. And so they go and they do that. You know, it's short-term program training, which is good. You don't have to be stuck there for 3, 4, or 5 years. You're in and out in less than a year for the most part. So it's good stuff.
Less than a year. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're in 14 states?
Yes, 14 states, 22 campuses, and I've been with them for 20 years. Actually, February 1st was my 20th anniversary with them. So
happy anniversary. That's
thank
incredible.
you so much. It's been a fun ride. Yeah, I'm their AVP of PR now. I was in marketing and advertising in the beginning, went to compliance and regulatory, which gave me a completely different perspective on the business, and that kind of parlayed into where I am now in public relations space. So that plus my volunteer work is always fun. It melds well together. So
yeah.
I don't feel out of my comfort zone in either one.
How many students would you say go through your doors in a year?
In a year, goodness, about, is it 2,000 or so?
Wow.
Yeah. It's
That's
a lot of students, a lot of training that takes place. So last year I was in charge of getting all elected officials out to the schools. You know, don't forget that we're here. Some of them it's just kind of like they drive by the building and they don't realize. And that happened to me in a couple of states. Like, wow, I had no idea who you guys were, or I've seen the building, but I didn't know what you did. So for me, it was the engagement, right? Get them back in and remember, hey, we're here. This is what we do, and this is how important we are to business, local business and industry. We have really great partnerships, and they've only just expanded because so fewer people are going into the trades, whether it's us or another organization that does what we do. Everyone's going to a 4-year college, right? And that's fine for those who want to go in that direction. But for those that don't, they come to us. But so many folks are getting pushed to 4-year colleges or encouraged to go to 4-year colleges. There's been a significant dip, right? Finding automotive technicians, plumbers, electricians, and those kinds of folks, it's tough. So, you know, there's always a need, which is a good thing.
And it's great work and it pays off. I mean, I got to tell you, when you're in need of someone who can do a trade, you usually money is kind of no object. Like, you know, I remember our heater went, and you know, my wife was going off to work, and I had to, you know, have the people come in, and I remember stopping her at the door and being like, hey, wait, before you go, what's the roof? Like, what's the maximum amount? If they give me a number and say, like, this is what it's going to cost to fix this thing. And she's like, Vinny, it's the dead of winter. Whatever they ask for, you're paying it. Like, and that's when it clicked in my mind. I went into the wrong industry, you know?
Right, exactly.
It's like the same thing when you're stranded. You mentioned automotive. Like, when you're stranded on the side of the road, it's whatever it costs, you know?
Yeah.
Save me. Whatever it takes.
And I feel like not everybody should go to a 4-year college, but you're right. So many guidance counselors push kids into some kind of 4-year degree when they would be much more successful at a Lincoln Tech learning a trade. I mean, I know many people in my life who should not have been pushed, whose parents wasted a good 2 years worth of tuition before they were like, I'm done. Don't care what you think. And not only did their parents waste that tuition, but they then had to figure out what comes next. And if somebody hadn't said, you know, well, have you thought about a trade? Have you thought about this? Who knows if they would have made it, you know?
Right. I love cars. I would have been an auto technician. So quick story. I was one of those people. My mother, I'm first generation in this country, right? My mother and father came here in the 60s from Ecuador, met here, but they were from the same small town, but they really met here and got married. And then here I came along. And so eventually my mom wanted me to become a mechanical engineer. Just because, again, first generation, and I don't know where she got that from. I have to ask her the question now that we're talking about it. Why did you want me to become a mechanical engineer? What was the fixation with that? So she had me apply to a bunch of different schools. I got into NGIT, and I was never really good at math, you know, math and science. And I guess the things that you really need to be good at to become a mechanical engineer, I was not good at, but it was just her you know, her vision and her mission to get me to do that. Needless to say, I got into NGIT. I just wasn't hacking it in the proper classes to go in that route. So I ended up graduating from there with a bachelor's in business administration went to work for Lincoln Tech eventually, right? Kind of fast forward there a little bit. And the first thing I had to do was shop schools because nobody knew who I was. So they're like, ooh, can you go in and shop? Let's make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, handing out the right marketing materials and whatnot. So one of the first schools I went to was our Mahwah campus, which is still there. And that school was nothing what I expected a trade school to be like. It was just gorgeous, immaculate. You can eat off the floor, even in the shops. I was blown away. And I was like, oh my God, if I hadn't been forced to go to college, I would have gone here. I would have been a technician and I would have been making some pretty darn good money right now because I love cars. I would have just kept learning and learning and learning and wanting to work obviously for the better brands. And, that's what a lot of our students do and have done. They've done really well for themselves. God bless them because they've worked so hard, make those connections. And that's what I would have done to your point, Kate. I would have been a technician, instead of going to college. But, it's fine. Here I am. But at least it's available for others to do that. They can make that choice.
Absolutely. Now, like a lot of other schools, does Lincoln Tech work with student loan people so that it's a little bit easy for students to apply to get in and then handle the money? And because if you're going to tech, I would imagine sometimes the financial resources are not always there.
Yes, we're nationally accredited by ACCSE. So we are a Title IV school, which means that our students have access to financial aid when they apply, depending, of course, on their financial situation, as with any school you go to, right, depending on what you make, what your parents make, how old you are, determines how much in aid you're eligible for. Grants, loans, that kind of thing. Scholarships as well, we make that available for students. To your point, the demographic that we serve sometimes needs that help, right, that lift to be able to get the training. So yes, they do have access to those funds, which is good.
That's awesome.
How about COVID? I know a lot of schools had to make that transition online, but for a trade school, I don't know if that would have been as easy.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is we actually started to teach blended learning as part of our curriculum, which was some online, some in person before COVID even hit. We were well on our way to doing that with our programs. So we did it because it seemed so much easier. Again, for our population, a lot of them had jobs, either full-time jobs or day jobs, so they go to the night classes or whatnot, and it made it so much easier for them to be able to do the hands-on, like you're mentioning, Vin, in the shop. You do the hands-on. You can't do that via computer, but they were able to get their lecture classes, right? A lot of that stuff out of the way by doing it remote, because you didn't have to be in person for that. So we were already there when the pandemic hit. We just kind of had to kick that up a notch, and a lot of the exceptions that were made by federal government, by our accrediting body to be able to offer more robust online learning, we just had to pivot a little bit, make some adjustments, and so get more of the lecture portion done remotely. And then, of course, as with anything, right, we had to stagger folks in, and they had to come in shifts, smaller groups. So we had to have more students on a rolling basis coming in to do whatever they had to do. Clinicals were tough, but the clinical aspect of it, even though some folks weren't taking students, there were others that were. And so hospitals, for example, that we didn't have a relationship with, we ended up building that relationship during COVID, and they stand till this day because they needed folks in there, and we needed sites, right? So our students could keep learning. So that worked out well. I have to say we did a good job of making sure that our students got the training that they needed, and staggered it to the point where once everything started to open up slowly, everybody can come back in little by little, and now back in the classroom. So that's a good thing.
Cool.
Fantastic. And it takes less than a year to graduate?
Yeah, depending on the program, but for the most part, they're short courses, and that's the whole point of it, right? You come in, you learn what you need to learn to become a technician, medical assistant, or electrician. Well, electrical training, we'll say electrician, you still have to do some more hours, right? Apprenticeship training to become an electrician under a journeyman. But for automotive technician, diesel, that kind of thing, you just come in, you learn it, and you go out and you do it, right? The rest you learn on the job, because most companies that hire you, they're going to give you on-the-job training on their equipment, right? On their machines and their protocols, their tactics. So, but yeah, it's in and out, and again, much less expensive than going to a 4-year school.
We all
Especially
messed
if
up.
that's not your gig anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm literally thinking to myself, this would be really fun to do in retirement, to learn all these cool skills that I never was taught. But then immediately I'm like, how big are the classes? Because I don't want to be like this 5-foot girl trying to like do the whatever I mean, I was scarred in high school, as I'm sure you can probably imagine by now. Like, how many people are going to be making fun of me while I attempt to do this thing we call learning?
Well, depending on the program and the class, I would say I would say maybe an average of like 25 students a classroom.
Okay.
I would say, based on all the catalogs that I've read in the 20 years that I've been with the company, that's about the average that you're going to have. But to your point, there are folks so we have culinary classes in Maryland and in Connecticut. And I really wish I lived closer to those schools, because they'll have workshops. Like pre-COVID, they would have like cooking seminars, and it was like $30 or something, and come in and cook and learn, and then keep the food and all that stuff, and have some wine for the folks old enough to drink. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to go to these cooking classes, because the chefs, I've gone to the schools for business, the culinary schools, they'll feed us. It's like, oh, the students are making this and this. You want to try it? Sure. So it's like all
Amazing.
the stuff. Yeah. So people will do that. They're retired and they'll go and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to learn how to cook. And yeah, sure, I'll take a cooking class. They'll actually go through the program because they love to entertain. They're at that age and they'll just pay for the program, sometimes just out of pocket, and they'll just learn how to be chefs and cooks. Not for a job, just to do it, right?
Just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun. But I would love to attend those cooking seminars. They used to do them pre-COVID. Like the whole year they had like a calendar. Thanksgiving, for grilling, barbecue, Valentine's. They had Valentine's ones where they'd have couples come into the school in Connecticut and have some wine, and then learn how to make something, a dessert or an entree, and that kind of thing. So that was really neat. I can't wait for that to come back.
That's awesome.
I can't wait for you.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
And I love to cook, so for me it would just be it's an added bonus. So
Fantastic. All right, I think we're going to pause there and take a break, and when we come back, something new. All right, welcome back. It is now time for us to ask a second get to know you question, and today that question is there something in your life that you'd like to throw into a volcano, given the opportunity for 0 consequences?
Wow.
I know. It's a
Chance
tough
of a
one.
lifetime.
Yeah.
I can
Does that
tell
be
you
a
when we were
physical?
coming up with this question, the thing that I thought of was this vase that's been in our house for like 15 years now, and my wife got it as a gift, and it's like basically from my pecs, let's say, up to the top of my head. This thing was gigantic and gaudy, and I've never liked it. And I've always made little jokes about how like one day I'm just gonna knock into it accidentally and it's gonna tumble to the ground and break. And I have complained and moaned about this so much that while we were talking about this, like while we were coming up with the question, my wife is in the background and she's just like, fine! And she finally got rid of it.
She got the hint.
Yes,
Oh,
if this show has made no other positive impact on the world in our 103, 104 episodes, the destruction of the vase will have made it all worth it.
your quality of life is at least slightly improved.
Yes.
That's too funny. Wow. I mean, I would love to just grab everything that's in my garage and do that, because I want to be able to park the cars in there.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Just like with a big bulldozer. Just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
So what is it mostly? Is it what would you say is taking up the space? Like old exercise equipment? Like I'm trying to think of the stuff people throw in the garage and get rid of, like
Kid
tools
stuff.
that never get used, kid stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the tools are in the shed, and the
Currently
little tools that I have.
stuff, or like 7 years ago kid stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Like stuff that they don't even remember it's down there anymore. They're too old to play with. They're 13 and 9 now. So, I mean, we're talking really, really old stuff, And
could
things
probably
that have
just donate,
sentimental.
and they would never know. They would never
Yes.
know you donated it.
Yeah.
But then you'd
But
have
I think he was just saying it's got sentimental value, right?
Some stuff does. Some stuff does. The stuff of sentimental value, I think, is actually tucked away on shelves, right? So it's not in the way. The other stuff is like, it's just a matter of boxing it up and finding the time to
get rid of
give
it.
it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give it away. Take it.
I'm with you.
It's in good shape though.
That's good. At least it's in
Yeah.
good shape. I don't know. If it's not in good shape though, then you could just toss it and have no guilt, and it's a quicker process, I feel like.
It is a quicker
Yeah,
process.
remember
It's
the
run
point
down,
of the
broken.
conversation was no consequences, right? That
No
means no guilt too.
consequences. Yeah.
Yes, then I would definitely do that.
Nice.
It's the
Yeah, no,
guilt
no.
part.
I don't want to say like, just take a weekend, but you'd be surprised. I occasionally like go into an area of the house where, you don't look at a certain corner enough and, you're just like, you kind of assume you know what's in there. And so you start opening up boxes and you're like, what is this? And you just start tossing things because you just thought you knew what was there, but you really don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Stuff just builds up over time because we moved. We're in Fairfield now. We moved here. Gosh, it's a little over 3 years now, and
So all the stuff came with you.
well, that's the thing. We got rid of a lot of stuff, but we still have stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why do we still have stuff? And now it's just like now it's beginning to grow again. The mound is growing.
Yep.
You
The
know.
Well,
accumulation
it scales, it rolls. So like you had the
Yeah.
3-year-old stuff, and now you're storing the 4-year-old stuff, and then the 5-year-old stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
How old did you say your
Exactly.
kids were?
13 and 9.
13 and 9.
Yeah, we just overhauled the 13-year-old's bedroom because she outgrew the loft bed that she had. So we're in that stage right now with her
Aw.
of making the bedroom conducive to her personality and life
Teenager, yeah.
stage. Yes,
Teenager.
life stage. That's the thing. Tons of fun. Okay, were you
I
nice as a
saw that in his eye.
teenager?
I was not, I don't think. I remember conversations with my parents wherein they would just be totally exasperated by something that I thought was completely reasonable. Like,
Right. In your teenage mind, what's the big
yeah,
deal?
right. Actually, okay, this is funny. I can remember being in a conversation, like my parents sat me down to be like, we just don't understand why you feel the need. Why makeup? You're just perfectly fine looking. I don't understand why makeup. And I was like full drama because I have your eyelashes. I need them as
Wow, you took it there. You were like, because of you. I was gonna
I
say
Gotta
told
go to the jeans.
wow, there was an old episode of Malcolm in the Middle where Dewey, the youngest kid, really wanted something. And so he's making a presentation to his parents about what he wants, and it's like a PowerPoint or something, and he's like making these excellent points. And then we see what the parents are looking at, and it's just him on the floor, like, I want it, I want it, I want it. So maybe our, things sound a lot more reasonable than they really are.
Yeah, I don't think I was reasonable at all. I think in retrospect I was very unreasonable, but that's okay. We're in a good place now.
How long did that take? Kate, I have to
I
ask.
think once I made that really valid argument that obviously I need mascara because their DNA was just not that great,
Yeah.
it took like 5 more years, no big deal.
5 more years. I thought you were gonna say they just like went out to the store all defeated, like, here.
No, my parents are like sturdy Midwestern people. And so like me having that temper tantrum just made them just double down. They were like, oh, you
Right.
think so?
Wow.
But then of course, so if the answer is no, then I'm just going to find a way around it. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
had like a little bit of spending money. So I would just buy the stuff, keep it at school, use it at school, and then try to take it off before I got home. Like
How
it was
successful were you at that?
pretty successful.
Oh, wow.
Well done. Well done. Listen, when we're young, we find a workaround to everything, right? Just to do what we want to do.
Yeah, 100%.
What you can do.
Speaking
But
of
when
when
did
we're young, though. Oh, no, go
Yes.
ahead.
I was gonna say, but when did you finally realize that you tortured your parents? Like, I want to know how much longer my wife
Yeah.
Giselle and I have
Is it
until our
really
teenage daughter
torturing your
says,
parents to want makeup?
Thank
no,
you,
but
Vinny.
there are other things. There are other things that teenagers do, and in this
Yeah.
case, teenage girls. And it's like, my God.
Awful. Yeah, no, I can remember being like 16 or 17 and totally realizing that I had acted unreasonably over something and like saying to my mom, like, sorry about that. And she was like, that's okay. And once I got into college and I watched my mom, because I'm the oldest, I was watching my mom and dad deal with my brother and sister who are younger. And I would call home and my mom would be like, oh, I had to put a lock on the liquor cabinet.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
I'm not gonna say who that was for, but yeah, like they actually got off pretty easy with me, but also it was none of it was any picnic, and I never had kids, and so it's hard for me to experience it, and in the moment be like, oh God, I'm so sorry, my parents, or but I do in retrospect, I realize I was not a picnic.
I think the big one that I remembered, even at the time, thinking was the rides. So we lived just far enough away from the school that we couldn't like walk there or bike there. There were major highways in between. And I
Yeah.
remember my brother and I were both involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. And so we always needed rides to and from the school. And I remember thinking, even at the time, like this has got to be super annoying. So big shout out to my mom and dad who drove me back and forth to the school multiple times a day. I appreciated it then. I probably didn't say it, but I appreciate it now too. And like you were saying, Kate, like now that I actually have kids, you were saying you never put yourself in that frame of mind. I'm already there. Like I can already see like this is coming down the pike and how annoying it's going to be. So yeah.
Yep.
But
Crazy.
yeah. But speaking of when we're young, I wanted to ask before, and I completely forgot. Is there anything Lincoln Tech is doing to reach out to younger students, kind of get them aware? Because like you were saying before, especially with your parents and your teachers pushing you in the college direction, they might not even be aware, anything that you guys are a viable option. So, talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So we try to get involved with activities that kind of engage the public. So we did Coachella in Atlantic City last year, which was a really big show. DJ Envy was there. They have cars, they have other personalities, and quite a turnout, right? So it's not just about Lincoln Tech, it's about all those folks and that scene, right? That car culture. In that case, we do the auto show as well in New York when the auto show takes place. I
Javits
believe.
Center?
Yeah, at the Javits Center, I believe this year they're coming back full-fledged in person, and that's a big one. We'll get high school students that have shown an interest, or those that have already enrolled but they haven't started yet because they're finishing up their schooling, and we'll bring them in. Right? It's all included. They have to pay for anything. We just kind of bust them in, give them tickets, walk around the show, and they'll bring their friends who have not yet decided on what to do, and again, just kind of give them an idea of what that's all about because. When we do the Javits Center, there's actually a competition that takes place downstairs in Hall 1E. It's the automotive technology competition. So you'll get the best of the best students from high schools, technical high schools around the country. They'll come in and compete. Then you'll have big manufacturers that'll bring in their cars as training aids to be able to go through that whole process and trying to figure out what's wrong with the car. So we'll do events like that to engage the public and get the word out. We send folks out to high schools, but we can't always get to everybody. Some high schools are easier to work with and be able to get the word out on the training that we provide. So for the most part, we rely on having those relationships with radio personalities or online personalities and those events and having those folks come out. We actually have a partnership now with Kindig, and that's collision repair, right? Modifying cars and getting folks into that as well that like to do that part of the business, right? Which is the aftermarket modifications of a vehicle. So that stuff is fun, and it's what the younger folks want to do, right? The younger generation wants to do as far as their career goes. Because there's so much you can do creatively, and sometimes you don't really think about it, and you can apply it to the trades, even welding. I've seen some of our students do some really cool welding things. And so between that and getting involved in Skills USA, which is another thing, again, tailored to high schools, where students from different high schools go to the events, either in Kansas City or I think it's in Indianapolis now. And that's how we get the word out on our programs and our training and all the things that we do to the younger folks, to your point.
That's brilliant. I mean, I actually went to the car show a few times. That's how I knew where it was. But just to say, like, hey, you're interested in cars? We've got this whole thing going on. But yeah, I loved that show. I remember as a movie fan, every once in a while they'd have something. Like I remember they had the Terminator endoskeleton one year that I guess one of the car companies made. And then they've
Yeah,
always got those cool concept cars. So it's a lot of fun. And I could totally see how that would appeal to kids.
absolutely. Funny story. One year when I was still doing that, and when I was in the marketing department, Funkmaster Flex lent us a few of his cars. So he restored some vintage cars. We had a Gran Torino, we had a Chevelle, and gosh, the third one might have been a Camaro, but I'm not 100% sure. I know we had a Gran Torino and a Chevelle for sure. And so I've never driven a classic car before, right? So these cars, the years that these cars were pre-power brakes, pre-power steering. And I didn't know what that was, right? I was born into the power steering, power
Yeah.
brakes age of vehicles. So we got them into the loading docks, which are in the bowels of the Javits Center. I don't know if you guys have ever wandered into there, but
Yeah.
it's all the behind the scenes stuff. So, you know, he has the rig brings in the cars, right? Cars come up, but now guess what? The cars have to be driven from the dock into the space. And you have to go in these narrow corridors where all these columns are and stuff. So we managed to get them in, no problem. It's time to get the cars out. Everything's over, you know, the car show's done. And so I'm behind the wheel. I believe it was the Gran Torino. And I mean, he has modified these cars. So these engines are very powerful and the car just wants to go. So I'm hanging onto the steering wheel, dear life, with all the strength in me, pressing down on the brake. I'm not even hitting the gas, right? The car's idling, but it's like going, and I'm desperately trying to pull the steering wheel. And I get the car out. My coworker at the time, you know, a younger guy was there, had just joined our team a little while earlier. He's driving the Chevelle, and I hear, you know, I get the car parked, I'm gonna get out, and I hear all these workers, right, because they're looking at the cars, and all these workers are going, oh, oh, oh. I'm like, what happened? He drove into a column with the car, and he dented the whole door. I was like, oh my God. So, you know, he's nervous, he's a wreck. I'm like, just here, I'll do it. So you have all these guys, all the union guys are there. They're really cool. They're trying to help out. They're like trying to give us direction.
Oh yeah, that'll buff right out.
Yeah, that'll buff right out.
So car off the platform, he's a wreck. I'm like, don't worry about it, it's fine. He's gonna send us the bill. You know,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Yeah. So Flex was cool about it. You know, he's just laughing. Of course, he does the stuff, you know, with whatever company he uses to do his cars. So he just fixes the damage, sends the bill. All is good. But I was just like, it was a funny story just to watch a poor kid's face just go white when he realized he just drove one of our partners' restored cars into a cement column.
I was to say, I didn't even know what power steering was until it went off on me on the road. Like my power steering failed, and suddenly, you know, you're just normal, and then it's like there goes from being resistance to not being resistance just immediately, and you know, you start drifting like, you know, yeah, it's crazy. I can only imagine that was me at the time with my $8,000 Versa. I can only imagine, you know, a Gran Torino or a Camaro or something awesome. You know?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
you know, it was good times. Good times. Yeah.
But looping back around, say you know, I'm a student and I'm interested in this kind of thing. You know, where do I go to get information on it?
So you can find a lot of information online, of course, right? We have all social media channels, Facebook channels, Twitter, Instagram, as I mentioned, our regular web page. Give us a call, chat. There's so many different ways that people can reach out and get in touch with us to get more information on the training programs that we provide all across the country. And even if you are interested in a program that maybe is not offered in New Jersey, for example, there's other manufacturers programs that we have in other parts of the country, whether it's Audi or BMW in the Midwest or the South. Just, you know, you can go and get the regular training. I call it, right, your basic training here, and then if you qualify, go out and finish your training there. You know, so it's reaching out to us, and we're happy to give all that information out. And it's a lot of opportunities out there. You know, you'd be surprised how many manufacturers are willing to pay for your tuition, your room and board, depending on the program, just to get you trained and working for them. You know, it's the need is out there, and I didn't really realize it as much until I started to go out and talk to employers, and you know, that's been eye-changing, changed my perception of how much of a need there is. So
yeah, we've talked to a
there's
number
always
of manufacturers over the years who have said, you know, that they've got open positions and they can't fill them because they can't find people with the skills. And so, yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Right, exactly. I always thought it was just, oh, is it really that much of a, oh yeah, there is quite the need out there. I mean, manufacturers sponsor our classrooms. Like they'll literally take it upon themselves to they'll paint the classrooms for us. They'll put the logos and the decals, make it look super cool because they want to get their names there in front of the students from day one. So by the time they graduate, they're thinking, where do I want to go to work? Oh, that company that sponsored my favorite classroom in that auto tech program. Let me try that. So they try a way to get in front of students, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. This
Is there
has been
anything?
such...
Sorry.
No,
I was going to say, is there anything coming up you want to promote?
Well, one of the things I mentioned the auto show. Hopefully, everything will be in person. We're ready to go. We're going to be a part of that, so we'll be there again for people to come and check us out. And one of the things that we're involved in right now is we just began a partnership with Rebuilding Together, which is like a Habitat for Humanity organization that rehabs homes, and we're doing it in partnership with them to give back to the communities that we serve, where we have our campuses, and also to kind of highlight the skill trades, right? Electricians, HVAC, all those programs that we have that we offer training in, giving those students, faculty, staff, it's open to everyone at our company to be able to give back and take part in that and showcase the skills that they've learned, right? As much as they can, going out there to rehab these homes for the less fortunate, those that are victims of storm damage, weather related or just things that need to be taken care of. So it's a really exciting partnership. I know everybody's excited about it. They're on board. We should be kicking it off in April. So that's our cockatiel. Please ignore the noise. Like, what is that pterodactyl in the background? You're just swooped out of my chair. Yes. So that's what we're working on right now. It's brand new. We just signed it. We're donating $22,000 to the organization. So we're really excited to have that partnership.
That's awesome. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they do it?
Oh, me personally?
Sure.
Shoot me an
email.
They want
to talk? Yeah.
Yeah, shoot me an email. Look me up on LinkedIn. I'm there. And if you look me up on Twitter, I'm at Careers for Everyone.
Awesome.
Careers, number 4, the number 1.
Fantastic. Excellent. All right. Well, that was a fantastic conversation. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you to our listeners, especially the subscribers. We really appreciate the support. Thank you to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, the official sponsor of the show. They do home, auto, and workers' comp, so check them out if you need some updated coverage. And finally, thanks to Frank Galindo of Lincoln Tech for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. It's been a fun conversation. Lots of fun talking to you guys. Thank you.
The pleasure was ours.
It really was. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.